Hey, you! I'm glad you're here. We are here to awaken the women we once were through radical personal responsibility, unapologetic truth, and the fierce grace of owning our power. Welcome to the Mesponsible podcast. Hey, Wendy, and hey, you. Thank you for being here again with us. We are going to just dive right in and continue talking about our emotions. And one of the things that we always do before you and I start talking, before we get ready to do this, is we read our manifesto out loud or to ourselves just to center us and connect us back to our intention behind why we even do this podcast. And I want to read just two little paragraphs that really got my emotions
Mhm.
charged just when we were doing our centering exercise before we started. And
Mhm.
so it just starts with our message is rooted in radical personal responsibility. It is fertilized by tears, laughter, mistakes, healing, and evolution. It is watered by loyalty and sisterhood. It is grown by showing up even when it's scary. We do not speak to the masses. We speak to the you that we once were. The you who is just trying to keep it together. The you who secretly wonders if there's more. And the you who craves permission to let it be messy, real, and yours. We are Mesponsible. Ugh. And I read that just thinking about us talking about our emotions and how ironic that that was such a core piece of our manifesto. This was fertilized by tears and laughter and mistakes and healing and evolution. And a big part of our evolution was starting to learn to navigate, to decode, to empower our emotions. And last week we started on we talked all about you made me mad, right?
Yes,
This feeling of it's happening outside of us,
right.
but we couldn't get to all of the juiciness that comes within us. And so I would love for you to just take it away and share some of these other key components about taking personal responsibility for our own emotions.
Yeah. Thank you, Betty. I love doing this with you because we have literally shared tears together. Like you and I have so much emotional connection with each other. And I think that's what brings beauty to this world and to this life. And that's part of the beauty of being a woman is typically we are more able to express our emotion. We're more in touch with it. One of the things that really has helped me and so many clients that I work with on this topic, though, is to understand that I am not how I'm feeling.
Mm.
Who
What do you
I,
mean by that?
yeah, who I am is not just my body. It's not just how I'm feeling or even how I'm thinking. Who I am is actually like we've read an Eckhart Tolle book together before.
Yes.
Who I am is the observer of myself. And that can be a really big concept and hard to learn. I remember when I first started hearing this, it was it was right at the beginning of my big awakening is to realize that who I am is different than who I thought I was. It's not I'm feeling this way, so that's who I am right now. I am angry. I am sad. I am happy. Actually, who I am is not those things. Those things are a chemical reaction that are happening in my body. It's chemistry. Emotions are chemistry.
Oh my goodness. Just even hearing you say out loud again, I am happy. I am angry. Like that turns into identity and personality. And if you think about the law of attraction and manifesting, whatever you say after I am, you create.
Right.
And so recognizing that you are not your emotion is so incredibly powerful, especially when we start to talk about like manifesting and navigating all of these different components. So, speak more into the chemistry part of that, if you don't mind.
Right. I actually have up here right now a neuroautonomist,
Mm.
Jill Boyd, how do you say it? Jill Boyd Taylor, who says the initial physiological reaction to an emotion lasts about 90 seconds. Now, when I first read this, I was like, bullshit, because I've spent, hours crying in the past. And so I'm like, it's not 90 seconds. It takes, like, some of the reasons sometimes we're afraid to start crying or to start actually letting ourselves feel an emotion is because we're afraid that that emotion is going to be like a tsunami that just takes us out. Like, I will not survive this big emotion that's knocking at my door to come in.
Yeah.
So I experimented with it. I was like, okay, she's a scientist. She's saying that this is true. I'm going to test it. So I remember when I first heard this, I was like, okay, I'm feeling an emotion. I'm going to let myself cry it out. I'm going to let myself feel it. And I'm going to set my clock and I'm going to watch it. And so I did, it was a little bit tricky to do both, to let yourself feel and to be aware, but I set the timer 90 seconds and I let myself feel. And I could feel the emotion kind of slowly trickle in and then kind of get really big. And at about the minute mark, it was in full, like, full emotion. But after about the 60 seconds mark, it actually started to dissipate.
Mm.
So, like musically, it was like this beautiful crescendo up until a minute. And then the last 30 seconds of that minute and a half was a decrescendo into this kind of soft, I don't know, it just started softening, almost like evaporating. It just started getting lighter, and I felt better.
Mm.
Now, I noticed my mind want to reintroduce another thought that would prompt another emotional reaction. And when I did that, yep, same thing happened. It started crescendoing into a full-blown emotional feeling that I would feel. And then after that 60 seconds, it started tapering off. And by 90 seconds, it was done. This was like life changing, Betty, to go from getting, I don't know, pulled into these emotional roller coasters that would last sometimes for hours. And I would go to work the next day,
Oh,
after
swollen, exhausted. Yeah.
headache because all of the salts and all of the release of tears had just bankrupted my electrolytes in my
Mm.
body. And I would have a headache. It was horrible. So to learn this, that this is a 90-second process when I have an emotional reaction. Wow, how empowering when I can actually test that out, actually observe it. It helps me to realize that I am not my emotions. This really is a chemical reaction happening in this body that I'm inside.
Mm. So you just changed my life. I mean, we're always learning, right? But I had never learned that in that way. And the critical point that you just said, and what I want everybody listening to gather is when you're in that storm of emotion that lasts for hours, it actually started with the first thought that caused the reaction that was 90 seconds. And then our default is to fire another thought, to have another thought that's going to cause the emotional chemical reaction to perpetuate that feeling. And so, what you just said, it was so beautiful that when we're aware of it, we can choose the thought. Like, we don't have to give power to the second and the third and the fifth and the 18th and the 19th thought that drives the emotional reaction. Right?
Right.
Am I hearing that right? So the thought is what causes that emotional
Absolutely.
reaction?
Absolutely. Whatever
Mm.
stimulus it is that we that creates that emotion in the first place, which is a thought typically.
Yeah.
So, what's interesting to me is the health of our emotions, our mental health, we say, has a lot to do with our chemical health.
Hmm.
And our thoughts are sometimes very, not sometimes, they're very influenced by the chemical,
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
what's the word? Chemical
Imbalance,
imbalance,
balance.
balance.
Um, yeah, I know where you're going with this.
The chemical balance in our bodies is what
Mhm.
determines a lot of what is going to be more present. So, you know, if you are eating a lot of sugar, for instance, it changes the pH, the chemical makeup of your actual body. So you're going to be
Mhm.
prone to certain emotional responses because of that. Now, the act of actually eating sugar, it will create its own reaction. We have like this elation, this happiness that comes from eating sugar when our body
Yeah, that dopamine hit.
dopamine hit. Yeah,
Hmm.
it does something. It releases a lot really quickly. But then also in that sugar roller coaster, like we were taught in our health coaching
Hmm.
days, we get this great big peak and then we have a crash. And with that crash can come a whole bunch of other emotions because of the chemical composition. That's the word I was looking for. Chemical
Composition,
composition.
yes. Yeah.
And you had been in a period, as I have too, but your
Hmm.
your realization of one aspect of your health was huge in changing the chemical composition of your body so that you could start enjoying higher frequencies of emotion, if you will. Can you tell us a little bit about that journey?
I will. And I think what's important is it's such a huge journey. And it's such like the game of Clue, where you like maybe it's, Colonel Mustard in the library with the rope. And so like you go down that road and then you're like, "Oh, but actually it might have been this other thing that's causing it." And so we just went through all of these different um journeys of like I found this one little thing that helped me. And then that caused me to look at the next thing, and then the next thing, and then the next thing. And then eventually we've gotten to where we are now, where we feel like we have way more control over it. But for me, what happened in the very beginning is I was suffering from pretty debilitating anxiety and depression, and I didn't even know it. I didn't even know I had anxiety. I never in a million years would have said to anyone that I had anxiety. I thought all of my reactions were totally justified and normal.
Right.
Like, I was like, anyone in my situation would feel like this.
Right.
It didn't even register to me that I could feel a different way. I had gotten so used to that, and my mind had justified my reactions with real circumstances. Like, well, you would feel like that too if, this thing happened to you or that thing happened to you. So I remember going to counseling, trying to get help for the depression because I recognized I wasn't feeling happy. I didn't recognize that it was anxiety yet. And so I
Mhm.
was going to the counselor to try and get help for my depression. And he was giving me tools that logically made so much sense.
Right.
Well, when you're in this situation, you can XYZ. Think this way, react that way, walk away from the situation, whatever it is. Like he was giving me tools that made sense logically. But during that time, my gut health was a mess. It was a total disaster. And I didn't know that yet either. And so, what I know now is that all of the chemicals we need in the brain are produced in the gut. So, the serotonin, the GABA, the dopamine, all of that is produced in the gut. And so, when the gut isn't working right, when you don't have that chemical balance in your gut, you're not going to have the chemicals that you need in your mind to be able to have the level of normal, stable emotions that you're trying to get to.
Right.
So the doctor would tell me the thing, and I'd be like, all right, I'm going to do it. Like, I got this. I understand. It makes sense. But then I would get triggered. I would get triggered with sadness, anger, like whatever it was. And my body was so used to the storm of emotions.
Right.
So when my gut was a mess, my body would react in such a huge way that I no longer could willpower myself out of the emotional storm that was happening physically to me. And one of the stories that I always tell that highlights this exact thing is once I started to address my gut health, once I started to heal what was going on in my gut, I started to feel so much better. And I remember before addressing my gut health that I would be driving on the freeway and I'm very claustrophobic. And I also like to speed. I like to go fast. So I'm always in the left-hand lane because that's where you can go the fastest.
Right.
But when you come up on traffic and all of a sudden the cars are blocking me in 5 lanes deep or 4 lanes deep, and now there's no way for me to get off. There's no way for me to go behind. There's no way for me to go forward. I would have a very physical, emotional storm of anxiety and panic. Like, I need to get off this freeway. Like, how am I going to be here? Like, even though I know I'm safe, I'm fine, the emotion would just start. And it
Right.
would be, oh my gosh, get me off this freeway. My heart would start racing. I would sweat. My palms would grip on the steering wheel. The kids in the back who now maybe they're frustrated and starting to ask, I'm hungry. Are we there yet? Where before that wouldn't have bothered me. No,
Right.
baby, we're not there yet. I know you're hungry. We'll get something in a minute. But now that I'm in the storm, now I'm like, can't you guys just be quiet for just a minute? Like, I just need you guys to calm down. Like, be quiet. Because now, even them just even having an interaction with me at all perpetuated this, okay, now they're upset. Now they need to get off this freeway. Now they're hungry. Now my mama heart's like, oh my gosh, now I have to take care of them. And I'm
Right.
just stuck in traffic. Like, I know it's going to be okay,
But
right? Like, I
it sounds
know
like
I'm going to get off of this,
right. Would
but
people call that a panic attack?
pretty much, but I didn't know that then.
Right.
I was like, well, doesn't everyone feel like this? So, fast forward to I started addressing my gut health and I started to get that chemical balance where it should be. I started to kill off the bad bacteria. I started to repopulate the good bacteria. I started to kill off the yeast overgrowth in my gut. And I found myself caught in that same situation. And I remember so clearly noticing that my mind was used to, oh no, I need to get off. I need to panic. Get me
Right.
out of here. I can't be here. Let me out. How can I get over? My brain started to think those thoughts, but my body didn't react with panic. And I remember so clearly that I was like, oh, now I can think a different thought because my body wasn't giving that chemical reaction that felt uncontrollable,
Right.
right? Like I felt like I did not have control before I addressed my gut health. When the panic started, I couldn't willpower myself out of it. I couldn't
Right.
just say, calm down, you're fine, it's just traffic, whatever. You're being unreasonable. I couldn't do that when my body was betraying me in that way. But once I got my gut healthy, then when my body wasn't giving me that chemical response, then I could control my thoughts and I could be like, Betty, you're fine.
Right.
Like, you're going to be okay. And then I could just soothe into it, turn on the music, use some of these tools the counselor had given me. Now I could use them because my body wasn't reacting.
It's so interesting to listen to your story. Like I have so many questions too. And I think everybody else listening is going to have questions like, how did you kill the yeast? How did you like,
Right.
we might want to have a guest on that can help us to learn more about that
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
culture in our gut. I always,
Oh,
when
for
we
sure.
talk about gut culture, I always think about, I don't know why, but I always think about a whole bunch of like, um, Mexicans wearing sombreros and having a party because it's like there's this culture in my gut from all the food I've been eating. It creates a culture. It's
Mm-hmm.
certain bacteria that like to hang out and have a party down there. And
Yeah.
so when we start changing,
Repopulate.
yes, to repopulate, when we start changing what we're eating and what we're putting into our bodies, and that culture changes, it completely changes what kind of party we're having.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. That's such a beautiful analogy that yeah, now we're having a little bit more Italian food and so now we're getting a little
Yeah,
Italian versus the margaritas
exactly.
and the tacos.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so then another thing I noticed while you were telling the story was my body betraying me was one of
Mm,
the words that you said.
that's
And
how it
when this was
felt.
happening to me. And
Hmm.
so when we go back to what it was like, it feels like being a victim again,
Hmm.
because it
Hmm.
feels like I have no control. It feels like I have no power. Yeah. What do you think about that part? Like that's how it felt.
Oh, it absolutely felt like that. It felt like a betrayal. And it felt like exactly that. It was happening to me
Right.
and that I was a victim,
Yeah.
and in a lot of ways, what people don't realize is the bacteria and the yeast that are in our bodies that are cohabitating with us,
Right.
they are literally living in us in their own microbiome, right?
Mhm.
And these other creatures are outside of who we are,
Right.
right? So this bacteria really was something outside of me, inside of me, um, doing something to me.
Right.
You know,
Affecting you.
right? Does
You
that make sense? Like
yes.
they're alive. They are living inside of us and they have different wants and needs than me. A lot of like 85% of the communication between brain and gut is from the gut to the brain. 85% is from the gut to the brain, more so than the brain to the gut. And those bacteria and that yeast is actually communicating with our brain. It is saying, I'm hungry, I'm upset, I'm, you know, anxious or
Right.
whatever. And when I started to shift the bacteria in there, it was sending different messages to my mind.
That's right. And I've done a lot of experimenting with hydration
Mm,
and realizing that when we're dehydrated, we often will have these drops or like
hmm.
mini panic attacks also because our body is going, I need water, like I
Yeah.
need, and it's not just water, I need hydration, which is a balance of electrolytes with water. That's a whole other topic. But yes, it's all chemical. Your
Hmm.
emotions are so chemical that yes, it's about learning how to reintroduce different thoughts. Yes, it's about, you know, having different tools like who's holding the meter stick. And
Hmm.
yes, it's
Hmm.
about that. And if we don't take control over the actual chemical composition of our bodies, well, then
Yes.
we're doomed to feel whatever it is that gets
Yeah.
introduced. Like we have no control.
And that's why I feel like it's a great place to start,
Yeah.
right? Is start with your physical body first,
Yeah.
and the way that I started to do that is I found a really great company that introduced me to probiotics. I had never heard of them before. And magnesium, I had no idea that my heart palpitations, my anxiety, my leg cramps, my night sweats, like so much of it was a magnesium deficiency.
Yeah.
So when I introduced that, and then, I mean, we could go on and on about this, but when I found that,
Yeah.
it changed everything for me. And then it was like I had this one piece, like the counselor had taught me a way to think. And then I started to learn this other piece about my gut health. And then you find the other piece, but they can't all fit together until you have all the pieces to make it fit together. And so start with one, because this is going to have an impact until you can master this. And then this next piece will come in. I ultimately found out that I had some severe food allergies that I didn't know before, because after I started to heal my gut, then I started to ask, why was my gut so bad in the first place?
Right.
And so it's just going down this tool. But what we want you to know today and what we want you to get out of this is, again, with Mesponsible, you can take responsibility for the microbiome. You can take responsibility for what's going on in your body and some of these chemical reactions, and you can learn to decode them, to
Hmm.
listen to them, to get curious. How long did that emotional um, storm
Hmm.
last? Like,
Hmm.
what caused that? What thought did I think that perpetuated this? What
Hmm.
else do you have for us today as like a tool for everyone to take away as just a starting place to get this better?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate that tool of set your timer on your
Mhm.
phone. Get it out the next time that you're afraid to feel something and test it. Like let
Mhm.
yourself feel and see how it works for your body. I wouldn't be surprised if it's the same as what this, scientist has discovered. We're we are chemical creatures. We feel
Mhm.
chemically, and it doesn't mean that that's who we are. We can change it. We can change it. So I'm excited actually to brainstorm who we can have on here that can tell us a little bit more about some gut health. But that's it. Just realize that you are not how you're feeling. It's a chemical reaction and you can change it.
Yes, I love it. All right. Thank you, Wendy. This was beautiful.
Thank you, Betty. Thank you for sharing your story. It's very
Mhm.
empowering.
And yours as well. You transformed my life today. Thank you.